Once again, family, let me take this opportunity and time to welcome you to our weekly program, Health Talk. Last week, we spoke a lot around, substances, alcohol, and all that. And today, before we even start with our show, today I want to start by acknowledging our parents who continue to groom us, giving us an opportunity to reach out to God's people, the inheritance of God by sharing what we have, what we think that will contribute immensely in the lives of our people and the community at large. And, our parents is Pastor Joelyn, our senior pastor, and our overseer, Pastor Swank. These are our great parents. Today, I would want to, take off from where I actually ended last week. I spoke largely around substances and all of that. But, today I would want to challenge, parents, particularly parents who are either, drinking alcohol, or parents who are smoking cigarettes and so on and so forth. And, I would want to start, by talking to these parents in this manner. You are a parent, and of course you are a parent. And you have children, and you are drinking, you are smoking. But I would like to believe that you have, a desire that, your children should not be like you. In other words, you desire that your children would not drink. You desire that your children should not smoke, which is a good thing. Actually, that which you are desiring, it's a good thing. It's well and good. But then let's take this discussion a little bit further to say that which you are desiring, that which you actually wish to see happen with your children. If one was to ask you, who should be the model for these children, if they were not to drink, where would they say they learned that from? If they were not to smoke, where would they say they learned that from? Because you desire for them not to drink, you desire for them not to smoke, but you are smoking. You are the model that they look at. You are the example of that which you do not want them to do. So, as a parent, as we start this program today, I would want to literally challenge parents today to say most of these things that we see in our children, most of these things that we do not want to see in our children, are the things that we ourselves as parents are displaying, are things that we as parents are displaying. And to say in one statement that if the things that we want to see are the things that we should do ourselves. If we do not want to see our children drinking, maybe let us be that example. You stop drinking. If you do not want your children to smoke, let you be the first person who stops smoking. And it becomes easier even to rebuke your children. And you can even go to an extent of telling them of the disadvantages of such behavior. And you remember the saying, we say monkey see, monkey do, right? So if you do not smoke in the house, you do not drink in the house, well, chances are that your children would follow suit and would not do those things. But then, let me quickly, go back to last week. You remember I reflected on my community. I said to you, I came from a community, where, we would have dealers, people that were known, specifically, people that were known to be selling dagga. I'm quite aware of late that dagga is legalized, and if it's but legalized for use, but not for you to sell. But back then, when the use of dagga was prohibited, it was illegal. We had people that were dealing, were selling this stuff to children. They were selling, to you remember, I reflected that, where I came from, there was a boarding school, and we would have, children that were staying in a boarding school, and after school they will come around my community to access, the stuff. They would buy dagga because it was for sale, and the community, I said, was very silent about that. I don't remember even one single day where we have a protest where people were saying, this cannot happen in our community. This is not acceptable. This is not acceptable. We will not tolerate this. This is causing moral decay in our society, in our community, in our families. We never had such. We never had one person who stood up to say, this cannot happen. The only people who would, come in and try and stop this kind of happening in our community, it was, the law enforcement officers. And I said last week that, if as a community we wait for law enforcement officers to come into a picture in order to solve our challenges, as a community and as families and as society in general, we are losing the battle. But today, I thought I needed to reflect on something that, the kind of feedback that I got to some, some people who actually wrote who commented in our last show, who called us, and they were reflecting on the power and the strength of those people who were dealers, who were either selling substances to children and making this stuff available to young people in the street, in our communities. And one fellow was so straightforward with me to say, we heard what you said. We accept, and that as a community, we have a very serious challenge. We also know, of the people in our communities who are selling, it could be drugs, it could be substances to our children. But hey, these people are very powerful. They are very powerful. They have connections. They, if you speak out, they can target you. If it's known that in a particular community you are the person who is actually speaking against their business, speaking against their dealerships and all that. They might threaten your family, they might threaten your children, and so they're very powerful. That's what I got, and then I'm like, okay, very powerful. So we have very powerful people who are actually, selling drugs to our children, and we basically do not have any when we are compared to them, we are more like grasshoppers. These guys are very powerful, and we can't do anything. And it got me thinking, because I was talking to a parent, and a parent says, we know of these people. We they walk amongst us. We know where they live. We know this. We know that. But they're very powerful. And as I was listening, although this never came from this person that I spoke to, it reminds me of what I heard in another country, where I was told that drug dealers would even work hand in hand with law enforcement officers, to an extent that when they needed to ship their merchandise, from one place to another, the law enforcement officers will accompany such people. And I could imagine, as I was listening to this parent, of the frustration where I was saying, what, sometimes you never know. If you confined with the police sometimes, or with the law enforcement officers, you might find that you are actually confiding to a person who is in the payroll of the same people that you want to fight against. And that made me to think that, okay, these people indeed, they are very powerful. Now, powerful, I hear, but I have a question, that if as parents, that as communities, knowing these people, and we are scared of them, let's be realistic. What chance do our children stand with these people? What does our children, is this a battle that our children can fight by themselves? Is it something that our children is there anything that our children can do? Can our children stand against something that we as parents are so scared of? And I'm asking myself, that sometimes as parents we would need to not only think of ourselves, but think of our children, think of the future, imagine the future that we want. And if we imagine the future that we want, with the tomorrow that we would want to see, our children that we would want to see, communities that we want to see drug-free, children that have high morals. And if we, the future imagined, it's a future that we can begin to work towards to accomplish. And let's be realistic. If we continue to be fearful, if we continue to sit back, for fearing that we would be, these people will come against us, will come behind us, they would, threaten our families, which is understandable. But by doing that, we're actually giving them, power over our children, power over actually, it's as good as we're handing over, control of our communities. We were saying, there's nothing that we can do. You guys are powerful, and we are therefore giving you charge of our children, charge over our families, charge over our communities. We're actually giving them license to operate freely and to do as they please. But from where I'm standing, I think as parents, as communities, we have a responsibility to unite to fight, these groups, these individuals. Our power is in unity. Our power is, it's knowing who is the enemy. And maybe before I say this, do you know that if you know that something wrong is happening and you choose to keep quiet about it, you are actually in support of such, because there's no way that if something that has only been observed by yourself and you choose to keep quiet and not say anything about it, there's no way that other people will know about it. There's no way that other people will join hands with you. It starts with you sharing with one person, then another, and another. And and as a community, you come together. You begin to say, this cannot happen under our watch. This cannot happen in our society. This cannot happen to our children. Remember, the last time I said, children are the letters that we send to the future. Children are our tomorrow. And if we allow, for instance, drug lords to continue to operate freely in our society, if you allow them to operate freely in our community, we can be rest assured of the future. Our future are children that will be drug dependent, the children that, adults who will not have any regard for the law. The moral decay will be the end result. And we can be sure today of tomorrow. We can surely say we know what the future holds. Let me also not necessarily want to be controversial, but to say that if us as parents, we do not stand up for our children, we do not confront the ills in our community, and we hope that should our children become addicted to this and to that, there are rehab centers, they are this and that will help them. I got news for you. And maybe this should be a subject for our next session, and most probably we'll have to get an expert who also work in these rehab centers, and to tell us what are the success rates and of people who are in this rehab centers, who are detained in this rehab centers, with the intention to rehabilitate them. And you will be so shocked that, to learn or to know that people who end up in these rehab centers, recoveries and chances of rehabilitation are very, the success rate is very poor. People who have been introduced to these things quite often, even after they have been in rehab centers, they easily, relapse and go back to, their old tendencies. And let me tell you, something very frustrating, and that will also shock you, that these dealers, the people who are selling these substances, they know how addictive are these substances. They know how once you use these things, you are most likely to use them again. And even when they know that you have been in a rehab centers, they continue to befriend you. They continue to support you in the sense of making access of this stuff to you quite easier. They can, even sometimes, even when they know that you're in a rehab centers, they would want to visit you. Sometimes they would want even to support you with the stuff when you are in a rehab center. And so chances are, they once you are in these things, chances of coming out are very slim. Hence, the chances of success in terms of our children being safe from substances do not necessarily lies with rehab centers, but lies with us standing up against those that are introducing these substances to our children. The chances, of us having, our children clean of the substances, communities that are clean of the substances, lies with us having to confront those that are dealing, those that are making this, this stuff available to our children. And if we stand up, we stand up to fight these people, of course it comes at a cost. It comes at a cost because you'll be threatened, you'll be this, you'll be that, and more particularly that some of these dealers are prominent people in our community. There are people that are respected, people that are, held at high esteem, and some of these people, got names and they got positions, and when you stand up against them, you are standing against people with a reputation. And sometimes people would not even believe you that you can't be saying this person is a respectable person in the community. These are the people who sometimes when there are situations, there are crises in communities and in society in general, they come out and donate stuff. They kind of make themselves useful in the community. And guess what? They actually use proceeds, profits that they make from or easy money that they make from selling substances to our children, to also buy the faces of our to buy favor within the same community, to an extent that people would sometimes even feel indebted to these same people. They feel like, we hear what we're saying, but these people are helping our children, they're doing this. When as a community we're in distress, these are the same people who come forth to help us. So it's kind of, you can't bite the hand that feeds you. And, that's where it becomes very challenging, and you realize that it is not a child's play. It's not something that, it can just be started by an individual and hope to win at the end. This need, the community to unite, the community to stand together, the community to say enough is enough. If it means we lose sponsorship, if it means we lose food parcels that we are given as bribes, that and whilst our children are sacrificed, let it be. And let me warn you, parents, let me warn our communities, that if we allow substances to be made available to our children, at the end of the day, the substances will destroy them. It will destroy their future. It will destroy their minds. It will destroy, their mental stability. And, at the end of the day, we would have a higher price to pay as communities and families for keeping quiet. And by standing up not only for our children, but standing up against these people who are making these dangerous substances available to our children, we will actually be doing our communities and our children such a big favor. Today, I have wanted us, as I did last week, to continue to provoke us as parents, to provoke us as families and community and society at large, that if we are serious about protecting our children, we need to, stand up and stand against, these ills that are happening within our communities. And most probably, let me also be, throw this one, one thing out there as well. That sometimes we're only speaking about substances. But then, there's alcohol that it continued to be, freely made available to our children. And it's not doing them any good. I'm not saying we need to start a protest against the taverns and all of that, but I'm saying, as parents, what are we saying about all of these things? These things are made available before our children. And before we know it, our children will be users and abusers of the same. And as parents, what are we doing to protect our children? What is it that we're doing to protect the future, of the society that we live in? It won't be long that we'll be complaining and crying about, gender-based violence and other related things that emanates from, this use of, abuse of substances, use of substances. I hope, again, I have challenged, you as parents. And maybe in our next session, I would want us to maybe begin to say what damage does these substances do to the mental capability and ability of our children. Are they good? Are they kind? And maybe if we know how hazardous they are, how cruel they are to our children's minds and behavior and personality, maybe we would consider standing up against all of these things. With this family, I wish that as a community, as society, we will consider our standpoint and begin to do something about what's happening in our communities. Until next time, goodbye.